Obtain podcast.
All right. Hello. We're bringing in John Wood of 3Tech, which is a delivery partner and consulting for customer success. So we've had the chance to meet John here over the last several months and have been noodling around the idea of just throwing out what we're thinking of here as jam sessions. We'll have to come up with a more creative name, but really bite-sized piece of content, trying to keep it really short, probably under 10 minutes if we can. We'll try and see if that holds true. But first topic that we had today was really the dynamic between marketing and customer success. I think we see this more and more in the businesses that we're working with, is that there is this blurred line now of current customer marketing and who handles it, how do they do it, what technology do you use? So, John, I'm curious just right off the bat, like, what is your first instinct when I say, kind of current customer marketing? What's the thought process in your mind as you kind of navigate that channel and try and figure out who holds that responsibility?
Yeah. So, first off, thanks for having me on. I'm happy to be here. So when I think of customer marketing, I think of it maybe from a consumer perspective and reinforcing purchasing decisions. And in the SaaS space, the ease to switch products and things like that, I think being able to reinforce that purchasing decision with positive business outcomes, embracing change as you migrate from, maybe spreadsheets to a technology solution or one technology solution to another, I think is kind of the first thing that comes to mind, just basically making the customer feel welcome and that they made the right decision. I think it kind of starts there in my mind anyways. And then it obviously can go on to, leading into how, let's see, what did I have here? Sorry, I'm just taking a step back. Building a customer network, nurturing campaigns, creating knowledge bases, and basically allowing the customers to kind of come together. Because I think especially in SaaS, when you look at onboarding and the implementation concept, it's gone away from that being led by the software companies or the vendor per se. And now the customers kind of want to lead that or kind of jump into that on their own. And I think the intersection of customer success and marketing really empowers the customer to be able to embrace that change and kind of have control of that change and really get involved in adopting the product. And I think that marketing and customer success really need to work together to provide the right content, learning materials, et cetera, to the customer to really, move forward with that change process. Yeah.
I like the way you positioned that in terms of reinforcing the buying decision and like making them feel good. I think we always talk about, there is that, almost that point right after you make the purchase, right? Where you just go through what we think of as the trough of despair. I think that was probably coined from one of the management consulting firms, but it's right after I kind of signed the contract and now I realize I have to go through implementation and I'm not going to get the direct benefit for a period of time. And so I think that's an interesting way you put it though, that I do think there's this gap that we continue to see where as soon as the customer signs the contract, it is content like, oh, here's your login. Oh, here is where you need to go get training. And it's almost like there is this missing link there though, or this missing step that is like, hey, right after they sign the contract, we should be reinforcing the things that they can accomplish with the software, reinforcing that we understand their business and where they need to get to and why they've chosen, the software that we've given to them, they bought from us. And so I think it is interesting. I didn't think about it until right now, but just reinforcing that decision almost is like that first step that should happen in what you think of as onboarding after they sign the contract.
Yeah, I think you see it more in consumer products, and I'm by no means a marketing expert, but from a consumer perspective, when you go and purchase a product, whether it's a SaaS product in a B2B space or it's, just buying a new iPhone or something, I think you do the research up front, you purchase the product kind of through, again, it's emotional decisions probably more in the consumer space, and in the business space, obviously there's a lot more that goes into it, but it's still similar where as you start to look to implement the product and onboard yourself on it, you're probably going back to those reviews and getting into more detail because you're actually thinking about it like a user now, not as somebody who's coming at it from just a purchasing decision. So I think there's a lot, you position the value a little bit differently. You're not looking at it, from the outside in, you're looking at it from the inside out. And I think that there's a lot of marketing that can be done, and that is done in a lot of cases, to sort of reinforce that decision and make you feel good about the purchase that you've made, the decision that you've made, and what that product can do for you. And I think that, again, marketing can play a huge role in that, whether it's pushed to them through, email marketing campaigns or onboarding materials, or whether the customer actually goes out and actively seeks that off the website, and that, maybe there's content that's more focused on your early customer base to really reinforce those decisions. And like you said, sort of alleviate the concerns and the sort of like post-purchase depression that you might get with, oh, wow, now I've bought this product that's supposed to make my life, my business world a lot easier, but now I've got to actually go through all this additional work to implement it. Bummer. So if you can go on a customer networks and knowledge bases, and there's nurturing campaigns to just make you feel a little bit better, maybe you won't have that knee-jerk reaction to jump off the product. Yeah. Which, again, I don't have any stats on how often that happens, but I'm sure that it does. And I know that we all kind of feel it in those purchasing decisions just as consumers.
Yeah. And I think that what you also mentioned there too is almost like the evolution of thinking outside of just one specific marketing channel, deliver that message too, right? It's the world we live in now. There's so many ways to get to an answer, and there's so many ways that a customer wants to engage with our business. And so email marketing is just one channel and one aspect of kind of the overall arc of what you can do with the marketing now. And so I do think like customer knowledge base is another avenue, right? It should be kind of a collaboration between a number of departments there to come up with what that knowledge base looks like, both internally and externally. Like you mentioned, user communities and trying to build the actual community around your software and around the industry that you're in, and really facilitating great discussions and making sure people can go kind of get industry best practices or software best practices. So I think that's another aspect that we continue to see as well in these later companies that we're working with, is they're starting to build just more robust programs and almost have kind of program leaders, right? There's kind of somebody that sits under marketing who is working on these current customer marketing campaigns, if you think about them like that, and they're kind of sidecarring with somebody from customer success. They might sometimes bring in product and engineering if there's a need there, to get some of that expertise. So I do think it's a little hard to specifically delineate it's one person or one department's responsibility. But how do you think, do you think that responsibility of current customer marketing still kind of lives on the marketing team, and then it's kind of cross-functionally executed? Or like if you were sitting in a boardroom, right, and somebody was like, okay, who's, if I need kind of one person to be the lead on this, is it marketing, customer success, product? Like where would you kind of think about that?
How much budget do I have to work with? I think it depends. I think it really depends on the maturity of the organization. An early stage company is going to come at this a totally different way than a more mature company, and growth stage companies, again, they'll probably be somewhere in the middle. I think if you look from a more mature perspective, I think you can either have somebody, on the marketing team that is more customer centric and more focused on customer success and very close to that, or even a CSM that comes from a marketing background that has the domain expertise and the product expertise and really understands your customer's story to be able to position this. So I think that the short answer is, if you're mature, I think you can have almost a specific customer-focused marketing person. I think that would be the best decision. Maybe they're more of a marketer than they are customer success, to really, because at the end of the day, you're doing marketing, and they need to really understand the tools and the content writing tactics and things like that. So, I think you can approach it in a number of different ways. I think if you're earlier or a growth stage, you're probably going to have to look at it as more of a cross-functional kind of a team approach, and maybe the customer success people sort of write up the marketing campaign, so to speak, and then the marketers do their thing to it. Because certainly if you get 1,000 words from a customer success person that's super detailed, it's probably not going to get consumed. So the marketers are going to have to do their thing and make it consumable from a content perspective. So yeah, I think it depends on where you are. If you got the budget, I think it probably would be a good idea. And I think even HubSpot, some of these people have kind of come out to say, like, customer marketing is a thing, you should have a customer marketer. So to steal from them, I would say if you got the budget, create a customer marketer or build one or hire one.
Yeah. I'm in that same boat. And I think we're seeing the same thing too with like you were talking about, the later stage companies starting to actually put a position and focus on it. And I think the other thing that's been interesting, especially in our work, is as you start to look at these customer success tools specifically, right? They give you kind of the access to all the post sale customer interactions that you're having, and you can pull in data from every source that you have in terms of ticketing data, support data, looking at where they are in terms of their maturity with your product, looking at usage metrics. There's so much you can pull in, and now they're actually adding in this element of some of these email campaigns that you can actually execute through the platform as well. So I think that's where, again, talking about where the responsibility lies and what platforms and everything to use, but it really just starts to, there has to be this great discussion that has to happen now between marketing and customer success, because the other kind of on the fear that's starting to happen is, what if we send a campaign to a segment of customers and marketing, and I'm in customer success, and then marketing does the same thing, and now we're double messaging, we're confusing the customer. And so I think that's just a part of the, almost like the customer journey evolution, and then that discussion between customer success and marketing to really make sure it's like we have clear delineation of who's sending what from what system, and the business requirements are all outlined to avoid any of the confusion that can create among the customer base.
Yeah, absolutely. Firmly agree. I mean, that's the worst thing you can do with your customers is to look like you're not communicating internally. So creating a centralized owner of, okay, well, maybe customer success does do the marketing, but it should come from marketing so that they're controlling the ultimate message, and you're not, over communicating and flooding your customers with emails and things, and just, creating frustration there. So yeah, I fully agree with all of that. That's, I think that's business 101 is trying to do that internal communication. Although I think we all fumble there, in business. It's just, it's from the goodness of our hearts, we're trying to do the best for the customer. But a lot of times, we sort of mess up by going direct. Yeah. And, another thing that comes to mind on this is, well, I just lost my train of thought, but another thing that comes to mind is that you sort of building the advocates and how you do that. And I think that, if you look at more mature companies, you're trying to create advocates with your customers, I think as a goal, and get them very happy. And like, I think the end game is building these customer advocates that will almost do this marketing for you in a way, and share your content and say things about your product. I mean, again, I think that's the dream world for all SaaS companies, but some of them are kind of there. And I think, companies like Drift and things like that, whatever you think about their product, I think their marketing campaigns are in such a way that they build these advocates of people that want to talk about their company. And I think that's a great place to be as an organization.
Yeah. I was actually listening to a couple of podcasts this morning while I was walking the dogs. And one of the aspects that they were talking about was building brand advocates, and how many different interfaces or applications or kind of areas that you can just go spout knowledge or spout your experiences as a user or consumer, right? I can go to Facebook. I can go to G2 Crowd. I can post on my Twitter, right? There's so many different ways for me to actually kind of talk praise about a product, or even, talk bad about a product. And so I think that's true. You're starting to see these companies that really embrace building advocates, almost giving like more opportunities than not for their customers to go like do that, freely on specific platforms. I think there's just this with a company like Drift, like you were mentioning, there's this inherent because you see Dave Gerhardt on LinkedIn all the time, and he talks, the way he does, and the marketing that he throws out there. I feel like that probably builds this sense in other people. If I like the product, then it's like, man, I'm going to go, do some of those same things and tell them about how much I love this product, just because I've seen it before. And it's almost like the concept of like, if I see somebody do it, then I'm more likely to go do that action myself. And so I think you're starting to see that as well. But it's hugely important as you grow to have those brand advocates, because you're not always going to have the sales channel you think you are. You're not always going to have the ability to upsell every single customer that you have. And so if you can find those right advocates, like hopefully what they can start doing is just start infusing that into to other cultures, be a word of mouth for you. So I think it becomes hugely important.
Yeah, it just reinforces the story of your business and what the message that you're trying to get across and the business outcomes that you're trying to drive. And it all goes back to, it's more than just logos on a slide. It's each one of those logos will hopefully have a story because they're an advocate, and then that can drive back into your acquisition funnel as well. And that, people that are going out and looking to purchase your product for the first time are also delving into this network that you've built within your customer base. So you're not only getting the retention and the expansion that you want, but you're also feeding your acquisition funnel as well. So again, it just goes back to, I think it's a great marketing strategy, albeit I'm not a professional marketer, but from my perspective, if as a consumer and as a customer, I just think that the more that you can do to reinforce the purchasing decision, build brand advocates, I think the better off you'll be as an organization. And again, it's going to be a different tactic for early stage companies, and you're not going to have the budget, you're not going to have the people. But if you can start kind of building that culture and nurturing that base as best you can with what you have now, when you get to the growth stage, when you get to the mature stage, it'll just be natural for the organization.
Compound effect almost.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, John, this was fun. Quick 15-minute jam session here on our first try. So hopefully we can start to come up with some more topics and start to do this on a regular basis. But I think it's great, given the businesses that we've both built, and lucky to have kind of connected with you through LinkedIn and some of the other channels. But I think this is going to be a fun thing that we'll hopefully keep going and start releasing these episodes on both of our podcasts and both of our social networks. But hopefully it just we can get some good lively discussion. So we'll look for this again here pretty soon if we can get some time on the calendar and tackle another topic.
Cool. Yeah, Jeff, thanks. I've had a blast. So it's always fun to kind of noodle on ideas, and especially in areas that maybe you're a little bit less comfortable. But yeah, I've had a blast. So thanks for having me on. Look forward to the next time.